here.
We are. Clayton, thank you for joining me here.
Thanks for having me. You know what? It's funny. We come from Williamson County to Miami to actually get together in person.
Yeah, we're conversation.
This is the beautiful part of connectivity, right?
Well,
We're all connected. You just have to figure out where those connection points are.
Yeah.
So, divine timing.
Yeah, I want to hear from you. I mean, you've been in this space for a long time. You've been around the world. Your wife's very active in health around the world. She's a brilliant woman. I got a chance to talk to her last week for some time.
You have one too. It's the smart part of men. We outkick our coverage. We know our roles.
And we just keep our mouth shut. Don't let them know. Yeah, they probably know.
Guys, couples therapy.
Yeah.
Outkick your coverage. Learn to serve.
Yeah, keep them happy.
We're good.
Keep them happy. Yeah, fortunate man. But I'd love to hear from you where you see the space going. Biohacking, as far as like between tech, everything's about tech, stem cell, frequency these days. Most people never understand frequency. So give us your insight, like kind of where we're at, where things are headed in the next 5 years. What that look like?
You know, I think the real interesting part of like my childhood and where I grew up is understanding where innovations come from. You know, where as we were talking before, a lot of stuff happens behind the scenes or is being done in different areas, and it starts to be applied in different spaces. You know, the fortunate aspect I had, which I think was part of my plan in my walk, growing up in an integrated veterinary practice, so being around, you know, integrative human and animal medicine literally from the time I was 2 years old. So when it comes to biohacking, I've been studying this for 45 years. Okay. I tore my anterior cruciate ligament in high school and repaired it with magnets. Oh. And tore my hamstring in college, and my parents have been using lasers since 1998. You know, so I was using lasers for, you know, therapy and regeneration for a torn hamstring and such. And so people go, wait, that's a long time ago. I'm like, yeah, but you have to understand a lot of innovations, and you know, these aspects will come through veterinary medicine and work on animals prior to coming to the human space. So you know, when we look at what's coming, right? The interesting aspect of where we are technologically, you know, that we sit at this interesting precipice now of this ascension event or an extinction event, and we're given the choice. But because of this interesting, innovative environment that we live in this blend of technology and science and spirituality, right? Because there's, you know, as you know, you hear Tesla talk about, you hear scientists talk about the rules of 3, 6, 9 and such in the Trinity that we all understand exists, and those aspects of the Trinity and threes exist in many different aspects. So where some people will look at technology and go, okay, this can be nefarious. It can be if it's used improperly. But when we look at wearable technology and, you know, the introduction of like Aura and Whoop and, you know, whether it's different wearables, you see the beginnings of these things, and they're in their basic beginnings. And if you start doing research into that, you can see that the actual mechanisms that they're using are not medical grade, right? So they're designed for fun, like Aura, Whoop, your Samsung phone, your Apple phone. The sensors that they use when you turn your watch over, there's 4 sensors, usually 3 or 4 sensors. They're not medically grade. So the information that they're gathering is for basically entertainment purposes only.
Yeah.
But the really cool part of knowing that there's some real savants out there that from a systems engineering standpoint have been and are building, I'll say, have developed devices that are wearables using the medically grade proven sensors, and even taken like 8 of them. So all of the major, you know, key pieces that are known right now scientifically, that are already validated and proven, put them in one device, and are getting ready to bring these things to the market. They've already been tested in other countries, right? The data that they've been working on in Singapore, working with the Singapore government, having everyone in the population wear these, and the data that they were able to get from a population standpoint as well as individual dropped their healthcare cost by 65% in a couple of years. And you go, and so some people look at this and go, oh, well, that kind of data is bad. But when you look at it from a population health standpoint, you go, you know, there's a lot of good that can be done with using data properly. Not like we're seeing in some aspects where, you know, data is being stolen and people are using your data because we're also going to see the innovation in tech that all of your data is going to be secured, and you're going to own it and you're going to control it. Imagine being in an environment where your medical records are under your control. So you go to the doctor, you have your stuff, it's all locked up on your phone, you have access to it. And instead of your doctor sharing your medical history and your medical information with a pharmaceutical company or with a research institution that doesn't pay you for it, might pay them for it, or is paying somewhere else because your data is insanely valuable,
Right.
that they actually have to request from you to use your medical information for whatever they want to do, which means you're the one that can dictate how you want to relinquish that data. So if you know it's really valuable and you can say, oh, well, yes, I am happy to provide that for $5,000. And they say, great, here's $5,000. You give them a code, it unlocks your information. They're able to do everything that they need to do with it, but the value goes to the one who holds and controls the data. So what we're going to see are changes in the entire system, the entire network of providing security for the individual. And what we would say is the tokenization of all assets, right? So your medical data, you control. Your assets, you control. And through that, this new ecosystem will be developed, and doing so in a manner that is not controlled by an outside party that's trying to manipulate everything that we've seen through social media, through every aspect of the internet. You look at all of these companies that have hundred and multi-hundred billion dollar or trillion dollar market valuations, that they're actually not providing services. They're not creating real value in communities. All they're doing is gathering,
they're aggregating,
selling data, and selling behavior to monetize, control, and manipulate a population.
Right.
You go, well, that's biohacking. That's real biohacking when you really look at it. You're like, hold on, you've been able to acquire everyone's data for their health.
Right.
Because it was one of the interesting things of talking to some of my colleagues that have worked around Amazon. They're like, Amazon's whole thing was selling books. Well, why did they sell books? Because if they know what you read, they know your personality type. They know you based on what literature you're reading. And from that, they can draw down everything. What's your political stance? What's your view? What things do you have an interest in? Or do you have a little kink? Do you like a few whips and chains every once in a while? How many shades of gray do you want to go down?
Right.
What? Oh, you're reading Ayn Rand? Oh, well. And there are some entities that would love to know that kind of information. And you see these infrastructures that have been built on that data. Well, what if you lock that up and you have control over it, and if anybody wants it, they've got to come to you, and they can't get it.
So you're saying like on a blockchain?
Beyond what we know is what we conceive as the blockchain right now. That's already done. These things are coming, and knowing that where most people fear AI, and I was having this conversation with some of my collaborating systems engineers yesterday, that AI is a myth. It's all machine learning. It's not artificial intelligence. Because when you look at the AI myth as it's constructed right now, you notice that artificial intelligence and all these things can't ask a question. They have to be given questions. They have to be given queries. You have to give it instruction. And unfortunately, based on the questions that you ask, you can get wrong answers.
Right.
Because garbage in, garbage out. I've been starting to play with it and writing different pieces. It's like, look, I know from the language that I use in posing a question that I can dictate how it's going to write a paper or an article or a piece. You go, oh, you can use this in many different ways. But it's the same thing that we do with people right now in creating propaganda. That doesn't have to be true. It just has to be well constructed. So you look at politics, you're like, well, if you say it really well, people are going to listen to it. It doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be accurate. And so being able to understand how that environment works, and true machine learning, if you have really amazing systems engineers and really smart people, we're going to get massive improvements in this. And the more data that those systems can get in a good way, the better they're going to behave, the better they're going to perform. But it's not artificial intelligence, right? It's not AI as
it's
people
still
think.
aggregating data.
It is still data management, and it's still, language learning models. And what it's learning from those things, it's not intelligent. But we're being told, oh, this is artificial intelligence, right? And that's part of the flaw.
As if it learns, but it learns to aggregate the data more precisely based on your question.
And the machine learning is going to continue to aggregate. But I mean, if we get to the point where we do flip the switch and it becomes, intelligent, then we're going to have conversations. But that's why people aren't concerned about it yet, because the real systems engineers, the real programmers, the coders, they know what it is. Like the lay publics, and this is, I think one of the big problems that we're going to see cleared out in the biohacking space is there's just so much trash, right? Being at events, roughly 80% of the stuff that you see at events needs to go away, because it's not legitimate. It's based on spinning language, and there's no real science to it. So what we're going to see is a significant increase in the importance of data, the importance of validation, because and I'll say the health and wellness industry, and I hate the term wellness because it's not what we're made to. We are committed, we're created in the image of greatness, and that's our goal, right? Is in every other aspect of life, we want to pursue greatness. Right? We don't talk about mediocrity. If we talk sports, we're going to talk about who's the greatest.
Right.
If we're going to talk Muhammad Ali, we're going to talk Secretariat. We're going to talk Tom Brady is the greatest, or is it, Peyton Manning, or whoever it is in sports. We don't want to talk about, Judd Bushler hit a couple threes and he was really, really average. No, that's not entertaining. So we are made in the image of greatness. That's where our sole job is to work to become, is the best version of ourselves. Not mediocre, not well, which is just above being sick, which means you're completely docile and controllable. But going through this process, this ascension process, that is not just physical, right? It's physical, it's psychological, it's spiritual, it's emotional, and it's all simultaneous. That we're going to go through this journey, and the real cream will rise to the top. And the faster we can get there, and it's already been happening, and you can see it if you step back. And I'm really fortunate because my wife is at the forefront of this. And when I say cream rising to the top, if you know German, Raum means cream, and in the Middle East it means of God. It's the breast of God. It's of Allah. There's symbolism and everything in this. But when you start bridging real science and nanotechnology, bioscience, engineering, cloning, some of the real stuff that's out there, bioprinting, because these things are all done, right? We can bioprint a brain, they can bioprint an arm. You lose an arm in an accident, they can print you. They literally can print you a new arm. They can print you a new leg right now. It's expensive, but it's doable. The one thing that they can't print, and this is the disconnect of this spiritual argument, is they can make another version of you. They can't recreate your soul. Right. And that's that beautiful part. They can't transfer it either. But they know scientifically, like it's been proven, that when someone dies, because they've actually been able to measure this at Harvard and a couple other places, they see a spirit leave a body and it doesn't leave the room. It stays there. It's there with your body. And sometimes they'll go back in if they come back. But after someone dies, your spirit stays there. And so when we look at where we are, what we are, and we start to understand that, hey, we're a lot more than what we comprehend. And I think that's part of this biohacking metamorphosis, is you're going to see this space begin to bridge with spirituality as things start to amalgamate. And people are going to begin to see, it's like, what is grounding? Well, grounding's things that they've been doing in India and China and all these other places for, I don't know, millennia.
Yeah.
Right? Because these are not new. It's like, well, ice baths or biohacking. Really? Because the Vikings were doing this a long time ago, and they're like, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we're going to go in the sauna, and we're going to go jump in the icy lake, and then we're going to go back because this is really good for us and we feel good, and then we're go berserking because we're going to eat some mushrooms and we're going to go do gangster stuff. This is not new, right? What is new of being able to take some of these ingredients and through, you can say microdosing, but from a bioscience engineering standpoint of understanding what quality of ingredients and what combinations you can start stacking to amplify their benefits and their effects to allow the body to start doing things that we've not seen before. Like from a root standpoint, what we've seen with elite athletes and using some of our collaborating physicians in different countries, like the doctor for the Hungarian Olympic Committee, we've got a case study on the world champion in fencing, and in 2 weeks, her reaction time and quickness improved by 50%. 50% improvement in somebody that's already the world champion in what they're doing. You go, wait a minute. I mean, I was a sprinter in college.
That's not supposed to be possible.
No, that's the beautiful part, because when you look at biohacking, right?
Yeah.
If we're made in that image of greatness, going back to it, that regardless of how elite you are right now, there's a level of performance that's within us that we've not been able to touch.
Sure.
When you start to unlock that and you open up those opportunities, you can look at different athletes and go, oh, whoa, now this is entertaining, right? What happens if you can actually increase endogenous dopamine and serotonin without using illegal chemicals and give yourself the ability to zone out for 48 minutes in basketball, where we've seen like Kobe or Jordan, or we watched Clayton Thomas because he's a cougar, that's my guy. But years ago, he went unconscious for a quarter and dropped 37 points in a quarter, right? He hit like 39, 37 points, dropped like 12 threes in a quarter because he just went nuts, right? That's
in the zone.
He zoned out, right?
Yeah.
But usually you see that for a short period of time. That's dopamine. That's what it is.
For sure.
Right? That's why cocaine's illegal in sports. Because, one, cocaine's horrible for you. It'll destroy you. It's got all these negatives. But it pushes so much dopamine so fast. You feel invincible. You're a superhero.
Yeah.
Because dopamine does that.
Yep.
Right? You don't fatigue. You're hyper aware. Everything's fun. And you dominate whatever you're doing.
Your nervous system's on fire.
Yeah, you basically, and you're like, holy cow, this is outstanding. But that only lasts 20 minutes. What if you have control of that for an entire day? Or you have the ability to do that for 48 minutes in a game? You don't fatigue, you don't get stressed. So it's not about, like the World Series is going on last night, so I was watching the World Series. And the beautiful part about sports, especially college sports, is it's not the first 12 games of a football season. It's when the playoffs start. Or in professional sports, it's not about the regular season. No one really cares. It's like, look, I want to watch the finals. I want to watch elite athletes basically shit the bed. I want to watch you choke. I don't want to see who wins. I want to see the people that can perform, and I want to watch the people that can't collapse. And the only thing that makes a difference between those happens to be dopamine. That's all it is. And that's what's crazy. And that was published a few years ago, of looking at elite Olympic athletes. The only difference is their levels of dopamine and their use of dopamine. So you go, what if you have the ability to just feed the gas tank, the ability to produce more of that endogenously,
right.
And then you dictate it and control what you want and when, because our intention controls our environment. We know that,
yeah.
Right? But the problem is, if you don't have the gasoline to fuel the vehicle that allows you to perform at that level, you can't tap into what our true capabilities are. But what if you do? Holy shit.
Without addiction, without
right?
the downside of the illicit drugs.
What
right.
if you remove all the negatives? What if you have something that is completely banned substance free, that is using some of the most powerful components of nature that are all synchronized to feed this operating system what it needs? It's like, oh, here's a Ferrari, right? Because if I'm going to give my kids a Ferrari, what am I going to do? I'm going to be like, you know what? I got a simulator.
Right.
You're going to go play on the simulator for a long time. You're going to kill yourself a few times in the car. You're going to wreck. You're going to learn how to shift. You're going to learn how to drive. You're going to go 20 miles an hour. And then you're like, wait a minute, I can go to second gear and go to third gear. And then you're going to go around a corner a couple times and you're going to go off the road. You're going to go too tight. You're going to run into a wall. You're going to do all these things. And eventually you're going to start to get proficient.
Right.
And then I'm going to have you start racing in the simulator so you understand what you can do. And then when you get really proficient at that, I'm going to take you and I'm going to put you in the car and go, here. Now, we're going to be in an open area, and you're going to learn to drive this, because you've driven it here, so you've become accustomed to it. But I'm only going to give you a 16th of a tank of gas. So I'm going to give you the car, but I'm not going to give you the fuel.
Yeah. So
you're going to drive around for a little bit and go, this isn't like that. I'm like, I know. And then you fill up the gas tank. Yeah, now drive. They're like, oh. And then you learn, well, if the fuel goes down, I'll just top it back up, because I never want to go below half a tank, because I see that the performance starts to change if I get below half a tank. Well, what if you know that you can just start topping it up when you want? This is actually where we are currently, but this is where we're going. Of people beginning to understand, is like, whether you're an attorney and you need to problem solve, and you need to be creative in what you're doing, and your billable hours are your big thing. And if you're making $1,000 an hour, you're like, well, if I can get an extra 2 to 3 hours of work per month,
right?
Hey, this is a good trade. Or if you're a teacher, or if you're a mom and you got 27 things you have to do every morning, because that's what women do. And if you're a guy, you wake up and you go, I think I need to take a shower.
Yeah, a little more linear, like, well, this A, then B, then C. Yeah,
and then we're going to see that. And we were funny anecdote on this. We were just in the Middle East, in the UAE, and we were with one of our friends who's a royal family member in one of the Emirates. So we're at his place, and it's like, I'm going to pray. You want to pray with me? I'm like, yes, I do. And our attorney he's over there. He's like, yeah, they don't do this. And I've never seen a royal ask someone to pray with them, especially white people like you guys that are not of our faith.
Right.
He's like, you want to learn how we do this? I'm like, absolutely. And beginning to see and understand the different aspects of faith and how they incorporate into this, and the power of it, and understanding how this is applied to other aspects and other systems, that we're going to see changes. And the insight that I got from that side of knowing that Islam knows Christ, right? And they also, follow Muhammad as a prophet, and talking with him, and they're like, well, your country was hijacked on September 11th, and you're controlled by another side right now that has become satanic. And so, this is interesting. And you begin to see that what we've gone away from is something that hasn't been done in other cultures. That their faith is part of their culture. That it's been torn apart. And whether what they're doing from schools, and what we're going to see is this come back together, because it's part of our nature, right? That we will choose our downfall, or we will choose our ascension. And I don't think it's our nature to choose the collapse of what God's given us, right? So we get to be at this really unique time of science, technology, spirituality, and watch it just amalgamate, and not watch it from the outside, but actually be part of it. And it's beautiful. And it's also a test, because it ain't easy.
Yeah.
But as you get into it, and as you learn to start to apply some of these principles, you go, oh, this becomes fun. And then each one of us, who's like Christina wrote in her first book, that we're each an imperfect piece to a perfect puzzle. Mm. And I think that's the important part of what we're seeing, that you have a small portion of people here that you could say are biohackers, and like, we're doing this. And these are all the things that are really cool. The core competency that has to be acknowledged and applied is that through all of these approaches, and those that work, and as we start to move things around, that as each one of us begins our journey to become our best selves. And the path is different for everyone. I think that's an important part to understand. There are foundational core principles, just like in looking at a phone or a computer, that the hardware and the operating system is all the same, right? We are all human, right? But the software that exists within each of us, and our programming and our coding is different. But principally, when you understand those two aspects, there are things that are standard across the board. And then once you have those standards and you have that foundational piece, then when you start to learn how to code, or you start to learn how to tweak your software, or you start defragging and hitting Control-Alt-Delete and allowing your operating system to relax and recover and reset every night, and you get to continually upgrade, you begin this path of becoming your best self. And through that, you can look at the energetic aspect of understanding your magnetism, right? Because when you see speakers, or you hear somebody talk, wow, he has a magnetic personality, or I'm just drawn to this person, because we like to see that, and it's part of our nature.
Inspiring.
Those that have more energy
Yeah.
are something that we're drawn to. It's like, well, I want to be like that. Well, that's that process. The more you do to become your best self, the more you're going to inspire others to do the same. But as you travel and as you become your best piece, those pieces that you're made to connect to, because we're not made to connect to everybody. You're only made to connect to those pieces that are made for your puzzle piece. And through those, you're going to begin connecting to everyone else. But if you're not doing your part to be an example, even for those that don't connect to you, the whole puzzle is never going to be complete. And that's that core part of becoming, our best selves, and how this thing all comes together. That whether it's technology, whether it's all these different aspects, and the biohacking aspect, that we get to see this all take place, because the few can change the masses, right? We see it on the other side of the few controlling the masses now.
Right. Okay.
Is that more than we wanted?
No, but it's made me think about a lot of things I started the question thinking about modalities. I think specific about. I'm not correcting. It's you went to the direction of the modalities are here, so we haven't seen them all yet. They've been invented, whether it's technology with stem cell, whether it's by frequency therapy. These are all the futures. We know that, but you brought it to a point of why and the how, or the importance of the community being in your proper place, and the community working together with each other. People talk about the community. That's about biohacking community. It's the community aspect of it. That's why Austin is booming, because they have community. That's why that's the place to start anything new. Is community, which is not in LA, New York, or Miami.
And it's two places. It's the interesting part. It's where we live. It's Nashville, and it's Austin.
Okay, can I push back on you a little bit on that one?
Because Nashville's getting crazy.
Nashville is. So I've lived there for 26 years, and I've been in the health space for 26 years, and I do not feel connected to a health community in Nashville. I go to Austin a couple times, and I can go to Austin now, and I can dial up 15, 20 people who are in the health community who will say, oh, Zane, what are you doing? Oh, I didn't know you were in town. That's fantastic. Even here in Miami. But in Nashville, I feel very disconnected. I feel like it's all about fried food and alcohol.
Alcohol ain't bad as long as it's tequila.
Okay, this is the interesting part. You know what I'm talking about.
So the duality of it.
Okay.
The duality of that one. It's crazy because we had to come to Miami and we live a couple minutes apart.
Right.
Like,
This not connected. That you proved my point. Right.
And it's a matter of if you have an area that is insanely powerful, and if you look at ley lines and you look at the energy geomagnetically. And I've talked to some people about this that have been in interesting circles, and you understand the spiritual response in the United States comes from Nashville. And what's interesting, if you go back and look at the Civil War, why Nashville was so important, because it was the capital. And you go, okay, so in an area that is so powerful spiritually, why would you have all of this darkness in that area? Because it's got the potential of becoming what it's made to do. And when I moved to Nashville 10 years ago, I was spending a bunch of time in Austin because of work. And I'm talking to people in Austin, and they're like, yeah, Nashville is Austin, but it's 10 years behind.
Well, I've always heard that, yes.
Right? And you go,
I don't see it. Why?
Because it's 10 years behind.
Well, they'll name it the music, it's the technology, it's the medical, it's all that kind of stuff.
Right, and it is the healthcare capital of the entire country. There's $1 trillion, I think it's almost $1 trillion a month, for sure, that runs through
Nashville,
our town.
Yeah, I know.
Right, and you go, hold on, and people look at it, the music industry, and it's like, you know who funded the music industry? It was healthcare.
Yeah.
It was the healthcare people that funded all of the innovation. But then when you look at that from a spiritual standpoint, and you can look at what's happening to some of the artists that are in town. You look at Jelly Roll, because he used to live across the street from us, right? You go, dude, he was 500 pounds, and now he's starting to have this spiritual awakening of, oh my God, my health is of great value, because he was going to be dead by 50.
Yeah, you can see it by looking at it.
And it's like, you're on your way out. This is not good.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see this massive shift. And why is music Why is music so valuable, right? Well, what did they do in churches, right? Why did people used to go to church? They used to have water organs in the church because you went to church for healing. You didn't go to church to pray. You went to church because of the frequencies that were being played in the organs. The sounds themselves were healing. That was why people went to church. That's what the whole thing was about. That's been removed, right? That's been planned, right? That's all been intentional, right? Why is it that we can drive down Concord in Brentwood and there's 12 different Christian churches and every one of them says if you don't follow their Christ, you're going to hell? I'm sorry, because when I go to the Middle East, I go talk about Islam, or if I go talk to my friends that are Hindu in India, anywhere in India, it's all, no, this is our faith. This is our faith. Even Catholicism, this is our faith. It's only this big subsection that has been broken apart intentionally that has to be brought back together. And when you look at those spiritual centers, why is it that everybody's being drawn to these areas? They're like, I'm just drawn to come to Nashville. I want to go to Nashville. That's not a big all. It's a big party, and there's 7 women to every guy, because that's true too, because it is a big party, right? Hawk to a girl. I mean,
but when I moved there, it wasn't a big party.
Exactly.
In the 90s.
And you get to see it. You go, man, you could go on Broadway, you go park your car on Broadway, get in a bar fight, get shot.
I tell people that. I used to park on Broadway, walk in, and know the drummer in the band that was playing.
Yeah. You go, this is dope.
Yeah.
But we're at this unique point of this shift that's happening. You go, I can't find the people that I connect to. It's like, well, partially because a lot of them are doing other crazy shit and they're traveling. It's like for us, it's been a focus that Christina and I put on. We've been in 80, probably 20, 30, 40 countries in the last 4 years. And 70% of what we do is outside of the United States.
Right.
We're like, and I built our entire ecosystem around community, knowing that we don't have to leave. I don't have to leave Williamson County and Davidson County to take over the planet, right? Because everybody you need to connect to, that connects to everybody else in the world, actually lives right where we are. And those that aren't there will come there pretty easily, right? I'll come to Nashville.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the interesting aspect of being frustrated with where we are, but knowing where we're going, right? And it's like, yeah. And if you're a real estate developer, right? Because remember when the flood hit?
Yeah.
And one of my buddies had a friend of his that owned the Acme building right at the end of Broadway, right? So it flooded. He was pissed. He's like, man, I got all this, I'm gonna lose all this money, and I got my insurance. Offered to sell my buddy the building for $20,000, $20,000 for an entire building that sits on Broadway. The end of Broadway, $20,000. My homie didn't do it.
Oh, he's kicking himself.
Yeah, he's like, could have owned that whole thing, right? So if you look at it from a developer standpoint, do you want to be in Austin right now where it's been developed and everything, Google's there, or do you go, there's some interesting
there's you look at the future. Here's your future. It's in Nashville.
And that's the beautiful part of the visionary component. And we get to sit back and go, I've been here for 20 years. I've been here for a decade. And it's like, people are like, this is so amazing. There's all this. I'm like, I know, we've been waiting for you. Come hang out. Come play. Well, that's that interesting point of where we sit. So if you're watching this, come hang out with us in Nashville because it's dope.
Yeah.
Just because we have Taylor Swift doesn't mean we're bad.
No, I think if we could bring health to Nashville and build a community around it, that would be very powerful.
And I think when you look at that of bridging the gap between social influence and health and spirituality, Nashville sits at the core of that.
Body, mind, and spirit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? And
it does sit at the core of that.
Bringing all those, because one of the most powerful ways to speak to people is music.
Yeah.
What do we have?
We have music.
We have that in abundance.
And we have healthcare.
Yeah. And you go, oh, so is it not interesting that we're there with influence in both of those areas? You go,
gotcha.
See, but the thing is, and you know this of being in the South, and we know this from biblical stuff, familiarity breeds contempt.
Boom.
Right? Jesus was a freaking carpenter, right? You go to his hometown, they're like, hey, he couldn't make a table. You go outside, they're like, no, he turned over tables, and you go, he had 12 disciples, and this dude was the Son of God. You go, yeah. But in his hometown, no one would pay attention to him. So the hard part, like when what we've been doing and what you can see elsewhere is you have to leave to prove what you're doing in order to come back to have influence.
That's so true of Nashville in itself. I think I've seen that with multiple people.
Everything.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, oh, well, I'm this amazing musician, I'm this artist, I can play a guitar, I can sing, and they're like...
Seen it. Yeah. I've been hearing that from people for a decade.
And then they go tour and they do all this stuff, and then they start, Jelly Roll's the example, because he's from the town.
Yeah.
And he grew up in the town, but he had to go out, become recognized, develop as an artist, become who he was, win Best New Artist at the age of 38 years old when everyone was competing against 20-year-olds. Yeah. And he's like, I've been here the entire freaking time. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, that's why we didn't pay attention to you. Because you were the fat dude on the strip and no one wanted to hear you sing. Because you weren't going to shake your butt and have cool booze.
Right.
But that's just it. It's like, go prove yourself and then come back serving. And he goes, shit, I didn't know you were going to do that. Yeah. Like, well, I know. But we have street cred now, right? So now listen.
Well, I love it. I appreciate your time. We've run out of time, unfortunately, because we can keep going.
I think we make our own time. Well, we identify as having more time.
We identify as time is a construct, but unfortunately, we're constructed right now at the moment. But man, I love that the direction you took it in, because it does come back to community connection and a vision for what we can be, and those that desire to get it are push are driving it.
Yeah, and
that's the vision of your higher self or your better self, and of all of our better self.
And I built Root's entire ecosystem on that premise, on community. It was Christina with the prophecy that was over her, or has been over her in her deal, with understanding why God's put her here. 50% of everything that she makes, she gives back, right? And so when we were making our plans to develop what's turned into Root, I had to take that mantra, because the thing that frustrates me the most, especially when you look at this space and you look at business, there's so much of a focus put on like business people and like, oh my God, Elon Musk is worth $100 billion and he's doing all these things, and these people are like, oh, I built a $10 million company and I'm so valuable. And I'm like, right, what have you given back? Because you didn't do it. And because of our social connectivity, we're no longer 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon. We're 6 degrees from 6.5 billion people. So we're already all connected. So the value proposition is not done through advertising and marketing. It's done through service, right? And as a business, if you understand, your foundation and what your core principles are, what you're going to do, and what you're going to do works, so then it comes really simple. If you produce outcomes, you'll make income. And if you take care of people, people will carry you because they'll tell their friends. And through that's how value is done. So what if a company just said, great, I'm going to take 50% of what our revenue is, and I'm not going to spend it on marketing and advertising. I'm going to put it in people. I'm going to literally do what politicians talk about that they don't do. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, which is in people. I'm going to invest in the community, right? And that's the key, because it all comes back to community, because we're all connected. And if we don't function as a community, we're all fucked.
Right.
Period. Right? Because that's just it. The more disconnected we are, and you can look at that from a biological computer standpoint, the more disconnected we are culturally, the more disconnected we are from a societal standpoint, we're broken. Right? Because if we're hunting, if we're our two-man wolf pack, right, and we go hunt buffalo, we're not going to take the head of the herd. We're going to find a calf, or we're going to find a cow,
the slow one,
that is slow, and that we can isolate, and then we're going to eat, right? That's where we sit. We've got to take care of everyone. That's the key thing of looking at Austin and looking at Nashville on what we do with our homeless, population, because these are, in most instances, they're not people that have, just been, I started using, crack and heroin, and, I just said, screw it all. If you go talk to people that have been in that environment, they're like, well, I had this happen. My wife got cancer, and my wife died, and, because we had a dual income, I lost that. And I said, screw it, because I don't have her and I'm on the street. Or you have different circumstances.
Stories.
And taking the time to to know from a societal standpoint that it's our job for those that have to begin investing in those who don't. You could call that discipleship, that we have to do that. And if companies are willing to collaborate with people to do that, because you don't need the money, right? Money's shmoney, right? It's a matter of how you put it to work, because we know with money, it's liquid, right? So that means be like Bruce Lee said, be like water. It has to flow, right? So it's like energy. It's not supposed to be stagnant. Energy never stays still. It's always moving. It should always be moving. And those are the core components. I mean, that's, of where we have to be, where we need to go, what we need to become is better communities. And we're in a unique time right now, because people are voting right now. They're going to vote over the next couple weeks, and then we're going to have chaos or that lack of community. And that's the challenge. Are we good? Mic drop.
That's it. All right, man. Thank you.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
See?
Great.
There we go. Happy times.
Unlock your full potential at the Biohackers World Conference and Expo in Los Angeles on March 29th and 30th. Connect with leaders in health optimization, learn the secrets to longevity, boost your performance, and dive into the latest biohacking and wellness innovations. Don't miss out. Tickets are going fast.